Hello there, my lovelies. How are we doing? My name's Boomy and you're watching my channel, Boomy Reactions. Now today, guys, I have a treat for all of you foodies out there. So today's video, we're going to be looking at American food or food mapping. So this is from the channel called Matthew Lee. And I believe Matthew Lee is a YouTuber that just takes a great deal of interest in food and what we thought we knew about food. And, so a lot in common there. I'm a foodie. It's my favorite thing in life. So this video has been requested from Justin through my Patreon. Thank you so much, my lovely. Now, Justin says, here's a video on how different cultures influenced American food. He really gives Midwest food a hard time, undeservedly, I think. Oh no, the actual thumbnail says American food is actually good. Like it's having to argue its point, which I think is it's really unfair. I've never really encountered the I don't like the attitude that people think American food is bad or processed or anything less than their own country's cuisine. I've not really encountered that attitude towards US cuisine. I'm yet to try anything that y'all have sent me from the US or any recipes that are authentically from the US. I'm yet to actually try anything that I don't like. I've discovered that I love pecan pie. I love all the pies. Sweet potato, pecan, pumpkin. I love all those. Oh my gosh, the stews. And I'm really struggling to actually find something I don't like. So I don't understand what the reputation is for that. I think it's very unfair. I think it comes from a lot of people that maybe haven't tried or like proper food. Like over here, we can't get hold of a lot of the ingredients. So maybe that factors into it. I don't know. Over here in the UK, we also suffer from a bad reputation for our cuisine. So snap. For different reasons. Entirely different reasons. I think ours is a generational thing. It does tend to be less flavoursome by comparison. But saying that, I grew up with two parents that have a background in food. So I grew up eating delicious British dishes. So I think it just completely relies on the person preparing it. Anyway, I'm blabbing. I've gone off on a tangent. Let's get on with the video. So this is food mapped American food. Okay. Guys, if you're enjoying these reactions, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much, my lovelies. If you're interested, I have a Buy Me Coffee account. That link is over here. And if you would like to help support my channel any further, I have a Patreon account. Yes, I do. And if you want to check that out at all, that link is in the description, just below there. Right, okay.
When most people think of American food, they think of this. Super processed, bland food, which is often sold at drive-thrus or these giant superstores.
Bland! I'm surprised to hear that. This is quite the contradiction, because our food is often thought of as bland in the UK. And by comparison, I would say that authentically, and you guys in the US, you flavour your food a lot more than we do traditionally over here. It's not a general, there's always exceptions, but as a general rule, I suppose. So I am quite shocked to hear it described as bland. I suppose maybe the attitude towards US food might be that it's perceived as being quite processed, but that's just when you're only thinking about fast food chains, it's not talking about dishes that have come from the South, for example, or from the Midwest. That's generalizing it, isn't it?
And sure, America has this culture, if you want to call it that. But I think this does a disservice to a cuisine that is way more diverse and distinctive than most people give it credit for.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people don't realize that American food is truly more like this.
Yes!
This video is going to be about the diverse regional and ethnic cuisines of this country, and maybe why it might be one of the most underrated cuisines in the world. So today we're gonna dig into why American food is way better and more diverse than you might think it is.
Interesting. I'm so glad that this video contains all of these like myth-busting things about the US cuisine. Absolutely. Bring it on.
The best place to start is with the first people who lived here. Native American cuisines. Now, a lot of people have this idea that Native Americans were just hunters and gatherers, and that they ate whatever they hunted that day. But there are a lot of dishes that Native people cultivated and prepared that we still eat today.
Yummy.
In the tribes of Eastern America alone, corn was widely used as a staple food. Tribes in this part of the continent created dishes like Johnny cakes, succotash, and hush puppies out of corn.
Oh, right. I will make no secret of it. I am a huge fan of corn. I will happily sit there gnawing away at corn on the cob instead of snacking on, I don't know, like potato chips or anything like that. Actually, my preference is I love corn. And we don't get very decent corn over here. For the majority of the year, there's this kind of sweet spot. It's normally in the fall when we get decent corn. And then the rest of the year, I don't know where it comes from. Quite often it's like vacuum packed or frozen. It's nowhere near as tasty. So I'm very, very jealous. You guys have an abundance of delicious corn.
In fact, native tribes like the Wabanaki even used corn to make baby formula, way before the first official invention of it in the West. But probably the most consequential food natives created was cornbread, which has a crazy story that we'll get to in a bit. In the Great Plains of America, tribes here were discovered making this thing called pemmican, a dried mix of meat, usually bison or deer, along with different kinds of berries. Pemmican is still eaten in a lot of indigenous communities across America today, and some native people even sell it commercially. Definitely something I want to try when I'm back in the US.
The flavor profile on that, pemmican, the flavor profile, is it more kind of salty, meaty, or is it kind of more in the fruity kind of direction? It's very interesting.
To the west, in the Navajo Nation, is another dish, fry bread. This is basically a deep-fried flatbread that has an uncomfortable history. The Navajo for centuries have lived in modern-day Arizona. As more European Americans moved into this area, the Navajo people were forced by the United States government to leave their home. This was decades of backs and forths, but eventually in 1863, US military leaders stormed the Navajo territory and burned whatever they could. This scorched earth tactic quickly starved the Navajo out of their land and forced them to surrender to the will of the United States government. These people were subsequently assigned to walk 300 miles from their home to internment at Bosque Redondo, New Mexico. This was called the Long Walk.
Right. I remember, the Long Walk, I remember this from my school days. And that is, so the Trail of Tears is a different route. Is that going back the other way or from a different state? Both equally wrong.
To keep the Navajo from starving, the US government made this cheap deep-fried bread to feed them, which eventually became fry bread. To this day, fry bread is made and eaten by Native Americans across the country. Many indigenous communities have adopted and taken ownership of this dish. It's become a complicated symbol of both colonialism and resilience. Up north in Alaska is a more fun addition to indigenous dishes.
Oh, that's quite a conflicting way to feel about the fried bread, isn't it? On the one hand, it's kept people alive, but on the other hand, it was innovation using ingredients that the US government gave these people. When traditionally, like flour, and traditionally it wouldn't be used, right? I don't know how to feel about that.
Alaskan ice cream,
It looks tasty.
or akta. This is a dessert, very much like ice cream, that was created by Alaskan Inuits using whipped fat of mooses or walruses with berries from the region. It's a really interesting looking tradition, and I would love to try it in Alaska someday. These Native American foods are really important because they have a lot more influence on American cuisine than you might think. Let's start with an iconic ethnic cuisine in the South, soul food. Now, soul food originates from one of the most atrocious chapters of American history, slavery. But like fry bread, it's become a very important symbol of resilience. The modern flavors of
Like the Navajo fry bread, I suppose, is the way to look at it, that it's a symbol of resilience. Therefore, it's like it's a positive thing that's just come from an awful situation.
soul
Similar
food
to
are
this.
a mix of cuisines from West and Central Africa, Europe, and Native Americans. For example, cornbread and grits are originally from native cuisines. Cornbread actually has a really weird story. Europeans discovered natives in the New World using corn in a bunch of different ways, including mixing cornmeal into bread. Eventually, the Europeans who landed and settled on this continent wanted cheap workers to cultivate and farm this land. So they went to Africa and started the Atlantic slave trade. These Europeans who were moving between the New World and West Africa brought cornbread with them, and West Africans who were being introduced to this new staple quickly adopted it, especially in Senegal and the Gambia. The Senegambians even created their own version of cornbread called Kush,
Oh,
not a
kush.
drug. However, people from this region would be later
I was just about to say, that's got a really cute name. Not the drug.
taken to the United States as slaves, and with them they brought their culture of making cornbread, which was originally from the land that they were being brought to.
Yeah.
So cornbread has like this hauntingly poetic tale of coming full circle. Slaves in the southern states were normally fed leftovers or parts of animals that white people didn't want to eat, hence dishes like pig feet. And because
And then you have to get very inventive with how you use these cuts of animals, which has only led to what I imagine many delicious dishes that now are eaten all over the US.
slaves were also cooks for plantation owners, their style of cooking with African and indigenous influence ultimately created a unique cuisine within the southern states. Black people actually play a huge part in translating a lot of Native American foods into some of the most iconic dishes in the country. Soul food is so influential, it bleeds into a lot of sub-cuisines in America, sometimes making it hard to distinguish one cuisine from another. Cajun food, for example, often shares the room with soul food, but comes from a notably different place, Canada. Well, it wasn't Canada yet, but France.
Yes. Most of the cuisine from Louisiana. Big fan.
This region is called Acadia. To this day, it's still a unique cultural bubble in Canada. Despite not being in Quebec, French cuisine plays a big role here. However, a lot of French people in Acadia were deported by the British in the 1700s, many of them ending up in Louisiana, which at this point was still part of France.
Right, yeah.
The problem was that Louisiana's climate is very different from Nova Scotia, meaning that Acadians couldn't make their food in the way they originally did. Instead, they adapted their cuisine with native traditions and eventually soul food. One of the most unique aspects of Cajun food is the seasoning, which often uses stuff like thyme, parsley, and cayenne pepper. Now let's move up to New England, which has a cuisine that's been mixed by British pilgrims and native tribes. This is the part of the country where natives taught European settlers how to grow stuff like squash, corn, and pumpkins. Also, seafood is a huge part of the cuisine here, from crab cakes, lobster rolls, to New England clam chowder.
Clam chowder and lobster rolls. Well, you'd imagine being on the coast or having so much of your land in your state on the coast, it would be a good thing, wouldn't it really?
Another really important thing to note is the American Diner, an iconic institution of American food. But what's most special about
your
New
diners.
England is that this region is where Plymouth is, the town that hosted the first Thanksgiving meal between the Wampanoag and Pilgrims.
Oh, I didn't know that. You've got a Plymouth. We've got a Plymouth. Twinsies.
A meal that included wild turkey, a key ingredient to one of the most iconic culinary traditions in America.
First
Next up is the Midwest, the agricultural heart of America. There are a ton of states in this region, each with their own specific dishes and styles of cooking. However, it's also known as one of the biggest laughingstocks in the US when it comes to food.
What? Is it all the casseroles? I don't know why. So the Midwest has a huge influence from, is it like Dutch migrants and settlers, and it's a bit of German influence going on there. And am I right?
I think this region is actually where a lot of the bad stereotypes of American food comes from. After all, the Midwest is home to Lutheran sushi, Cincinnati chili, toasted ravioli, fried cheese curds, cookie salad, yes, it's real, Watergate salad, a salad of marshmallows and pineapples, and this thing called a hot dish. It's the Midwest. At least they have Cracker Barrel. Also,
anything goes. Can you just put anything into a casserole and it's a casserole? I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's very imaginative.
Yeah, I do think Chicago is an amazing food city, but I haven't had a Chicago pizza or Chicago hot dog that's made me wanting more. Speaking of bad stereotypes, this next cuisine suffers from some misconceptions, I think. A lot of people associate Tex-Mex as a bad American copy of Mexican food, but that's Taco Bell. Instead,
it's an infusion, isn't it? It's like a complete crossover of Mexican and Texan food.
Tex-Mex actually has a long history dating back to the Tejanos, Spanish descendants who have lived and mixed with the native people in Texas and Mexico for centuries. Now, it's important to know that Texas was originally a part of Mexico that was basically taken by the US, and it was even its own country for like 10 years.
Yes.
I remembered the Alamo.
So this state is a unique cultural bubble within the US that sometimes makes it more similar to northern Mexico, especially with its food. Tex-Mex does have some differences from Mexican cuisine, including using shredded cheese and tortillas made from flour instead of corn. Texas is also the home of nachos, which is a huge snack within the US.
Well, thank you, Texas. I love flour tortillas. I love nachos.
Moving on to the West Coast is a range of different cuisines, including California and the Pacific Northwest. Unlike the rest of America, the cuisine of the West Coast is much younger and is still sort of being defined today.
Okay.
One of the biggest things to note about food in the West Coast is that this region is the biggest pioneer of fusion cuisine in America.
Oh, I like
In
that.
Portland especially, food trucks have produced all kinds of mixtures of cuisines.
I believe the food trucks are something in Portland. That is what you go for, amongst other things, obviously. But they would definitely be a tourist attraction for the gluttons like me.
Including Korean tacos and Japanese-style hot dogs.
I've seen these.
In California, a huge wave of immigrants from China gave birth to American Chinese food, which is a uniquely American ethnic cuisine, a topic I've already covered in a whole nother video. And moving even further west to the middle of the Pacific Ocean is Hawaii.
Hawaiian food.
Throughout the centuries, all kinds of people have gravitated towards these islands.
Pokeballs.
From the native Hawaiians, which take their food from Polynesian traditions, to Christian missionaries bringing New England food to these islands, to Asian immigrants from Japan, China, and the Philippines bringing their own cuisines. Like California, people from all over the world have created some fusion dishes that are unique to Hawaii, including spam musubi and loco moco.
Is that spam sushi? I mean, I like sushi. I like spam. I'll give it a go.
But Hawaii also has a complicated history with its food too. In particular, pineapple and sugar, industries that white Americans have mostly taken away from Hawaiians. But recently, Hawaiians have been putting more effort into pushing their cuisine out to the rest of the country and the world. Finally, let's move on to my hometown, New York City. Despite being a city, New York has its own regional food traditions, from New York pizza to American halal food. In the past few centuries, New York has become one of the most consequential cities in the world, a place where people from everywhere have converged. This city has often been a gateway into America for a lot of Europeans, Africans, and Asians.
And it's very much a big kind of cultural melting pot, isn't it? So
These immigrants, many of whom settled in the city, would sell what they had back home, their food. This is why New York is the birthplace of so many ethnic cuisines, including Italian American food and Jewish American food. This has given birth to some of my favorite dishes in the world, from chicken parmesan, New York pizza, New York bagels, and New York cheesecake. Yeah, we like to name a lot of foods after New York.
Well, yeah, it's a pride thing, I think. Ooh, New York cheesecake. Oh, just give me all of those.
Some other iconic American dishes from here are Eggs Benedict, hot dogs, and Manhattan clam chowder. So you can see that a lot of dishes are from New York, each with their own very dense histories. There is so much to talk about food in New York that it deserves its own video or even a series of videos. Not many other cities in the world have a diverse range of food as this city does, and it's a perfect summary of American cuisine. It's a cuisine that is beyond cheeseburgers and Wonder Bread, unless you live in Ohio. Rather, American cuisine is one of the most rich and diverse culinary traditions in the world. There are so many ethnic and regional cuisines in this country, but I think this is a good place to start a conversation. A conversation that brings the image of American food from this to this.
Yeah. Like I say, guys, I haven't encountered very many people that have this kind of attitude, this whole idea of American cuisine just being burgers, hot dogs, and processed food. I suppose you maybe catch a whiff of it, you know, from people talking like on TV, maybe. Not personally. I don't think I've ever met anyone that has, you know, the idea of American food. I absolutely don't. You guys have a very unique cuisine in that it's been so influenced by so many different cultures over what's probably a shorter amount of time than most other countries' cuisines. And I think it's just resulted in this like amazing kind of explosion of infusion food. And there's nothing like it. In fact, I would go as far as to say that your cuisine influences other countries. You know, we all want what you have. We try and copy it. So, you know, it can't be all that bad, can it now? Very, very interesting video here. So thank you very much, Justin, for requesting this. Now, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching along with me. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.